So now we're going to have our question and answer period. Can I invite John Worthington back to the stage, actually? That would be fantastic. So the way this is going to work is that we have a microphone here, right at the end of these stairs. So anyone who has a question, could you please come to this microphone so that I can see you and you can ask your question. And then also I'm going to be monitoring the screen of what's happening in Sendai. And if anyone has any questions there, I'm going to try to notice them and then ask them to pose their question. So do we have any questions? You really don't want me to tell jokes. I'm really, really terrible. I'm really not funny. Is there someone there in Sendai? It's really a little bit dark for me to see. Can you hear me, Sendai? Okay, well, maybe we don't have any questions right at this
One second here.
Oh.
Okay, we have one question in the back here. Please go ahead.
Hi.
One second. 皆さん、ちょっと静かにしてください。一応お願いします。ちょっと質問がありますんで、皆さんお願いします。All right, please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cole. I'm a filmmaker. And I was really interested in talking about Mr. Moto's speech, and especially people who crash into the subways. Also, when I'm making a film, sometimes coincidence brings a beautiful result and ideas. And personally, I'm taking that things seriously and importantly. So, what do you think about kind of thing for creative city, for making creative city? And also, how do you manage with it when you met the kind of thing? Maybe you like it or you don't like it, but especially I'd like to know if you meet something you don't like it, how do you manage it?
So something you don't like, what kind of thing are you talking about?
Coincidence.
Coincidence.
Yes.
So, is this for Motoe-san?
I'd like to ask both companies.
Both, okay. Let's start on that side with Worthington, if you can take that. How do you incorporate the element of coincidence into community planning? And I suppose when you are planning for the urban structure of a city, you have so many things that I guess can simultaneously be unplanned for. And how do you plan for such basically unaccountable factors coming together at the same time?
I found Mateo-san's presentation very interesting because I think what he was saying is in explaining of Tokyo with its density, that he wanted to be able to plan it. What we are looking at in the 21st century is a world of paradox. It's not that we have one thing or the other, we have conflicting things both at once. So we want to be both organized and disorganized. We want to be both private and public. We want to be both centralized and decentralized. We want to be both diverse, but very structured. So how do we then get away from the idea that we have to be able to plan everything, which is what we have at the moment, the concept that we could control. We're a bit like King Canute, who says, I'm going to make the water go back. If we turn it on its head and we say upside down thinking, that perhaps we should celebrate chaos. So all we now need to do is, underneath that chaos, is find what are the few critical things we need to do to structure that thinking. What is the minimum planning we need to do? I said right at the end that the new city will be about diversity, generic, simple forms, but complex cities. And that complexity is going to be about governance. But not governance in control, governance of having the information that everybody can make decisions. I don't know the answer, What I believe I do begin to see is what the conceptual framework is that we need to work within. But Mateo-san, I'd like your, because I very much loved your mega home, where the city becomes the house. And for all of us who are urbanists, who normally we would see pictures of public spaces outside, think about it. All his pictures were about inside buildings. He talked about new building typologies. They weren't buildings, the buildings weren't important. They were new organizational typologies of how to use buildings. So the organizational side is much more important than the physical. But I'd like his response.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to pass it off to Motoi for a second. How do you plan for chaos, and how do you plan for the element of chance?
I think, thank you for the question. That is a very important point. I expressed the special Japanese situation as ant hills. That's a very limited situation. I mentioned about the mixture of public and private, but it occurred only in an ant hill, very homogeneous society. So now the Japanese people have to change their mind. We have to go out from the ant hills, the very intimate, comfortable, homogeneous society now. That I don't have the answer now, but I show some strange, how can I say, sophistication of that kind of way of mixing the public and private things. But it is not easy to change the situation. But this kind of GloNet or other activities is a very good chance to break the hills by myself and from outside. So it's not enough answer, but I want to think about that question more. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We have a question here in Manchester. So if you could ask your question at the microphone, that would be. Oh, well, we have two questions in Manchester actually. So could you be very quick?
Yeah, I want to speak directly to that point because I think it's very relevant. And Motoi-san, I love Mega House. I think it's amazing. I think it speaks directly to your question. The presence of the informational network in the city actually transforms the meaning of those spaces. And it's a direct example of the kinds of things that I think we'd all like to see. The network is transforming the meaning of the space. I'll give another example, a shared car service. The underlying vehicles don't change, but turning them into network resources allows 8 or 10 people to use and share those vehicles in the course of the day, which means you can get 15 cars off of a street. I mean, it's amazing that the environmental impact that's multiplicative that comes out of the ability to share the resource as a result of its being networked. So I would ask us to concentrate not on designing spaces so that they are networkable, but in networking the spaces that already exist, turning them into resources of the informational network and unfolding entirely new potentials that are currently latent within them. And that's, thank you for giving your slot on the mic.
Thanks, that's a really excellent point. So do you want to follow on right away with your question? We have one more question here in Manchester.
I've actually got two questions. One's for Pragya, but I've also got a question too about the mega house. What happens to your belongings if everything is, if you rent everything? Where is there still a concept of home, or well, your things the things that you carry around with you? If I'd jump between loads of spaces that I rent, I'd have a problem with my belongings. Or I need to have a base station, I think.
Okay, we're only going to have time for that one question. So could we have an answer to that question? That was great, thank you. Over to you, Sendai.
Could you summarize the question?
Could you summarize the question? Could you ask it again, summarize the question, please?
Okay. What happens to your belongings? Do you still have belongings? Is there still home in this concept of the mega house? Your own space? Because you can't carry all your stuff around with you all the time if you just have if you just rent spaces.
Over to you, Sendai.
If you could actually maybe direct the question to Manchester only. We are not getting a sufficient audio feed over here, so maybe direct the question to Mr. Worthington over there for us, and we will listen on this side.
I didn't. What I have to ask it, John Worthington.
No, that's fine.
I can respond to that. I think in where I talked about core space, generic space, and space just in time, you will always have what I call the core space, the iconic, which is your hearth, the place you call home. But that's very much smaller now. A lot of the functions can now be spread around. So you don't have to have everything in one place. You can then move around. This is happening. This is exactly what we're doing in our work environment. That's exactly what we're doing. We've got much smaller as our fixed home space, our iconic, and then we're moving to use other people's resources, other places to share it. And I think Adam's answer was beautiful in terms of what we're doing is intensifying the use of resource by being able to overlap and share.
Fantastic. That's exactly, we're perfectly on time now. Somehow we've managed to catch up a little bit. I just want to say that now we're going into a break. I really strongly encourage you to use the talking boxes. So there's one just outside the theater down on the main level. There's another one just outside up here. And then there's another one in the cafe space. When we come back, Istanbul will be online. Sendai will still be with us. And we're going to launch into another head-to-head. Thank you very much. See you at 12:15, sorry. See you at 12:15.